Welcome everybody to the 24th annual GMDX convention. Good to see a good turnout, and we hope that we've got some really interesting speakers. Maybe the first one's an exception, but some really interesting speakers today, and a couple of short notices to start with. Firstly, if the fire alarm sounds, it's likely to be a fire. There's no practice alarm tests or anything like that. There are two exits from this room, one here on your right and one at the back that you came through, and make your way to the car park should the fire alarm sound, and then we can investigate and find out why. Next thing, there's a dinner tonight, and many of you are staying on for the dinner. You're very welcome. If anybody has any dietary requirements, perhaps you're vegetarian or you can't eat certain things, please let Cherie know, perhaps during the coffee break, and arrangements can be made. Some of us, about 28 or so, went for dinner at an Indian restaurant last night, and one of you left this pair of glasses behind. Right, they're sitting on the table at the front here, and you can come and collect them. As you have already been accosted several times by several people trying to sell you raffle tickets. If you're still desperate for raffle tickets to buy, and by the way, there's something like £1,000 of prizes at the back, some 28 prizes or so, and we're really thankful to the sponsors who have donated these prizes. Those raffle tickets will be on sale for the last time during the coffee break, and after the coffee break and before we finish up, the draw will be done for most of them, but the last 4 or 5 prizes, the most valuable ones, will be drawn just after the last presentation. The rest of them, the ticket number stub will be on the prize, and you can go to the back and one of the committee members can show you to the prize that you've won. We'll read out the prize winning numbers, you go to the back and claim your prize. The running order is on the screen. We'll try and stick to these times, but some people run over time. Not looking at anyone. And if necessary, we can give them a prompt. But this is the running order of the presentations. The coffee break at about 3 o'clock. Please try and be back seated about half an hour later for 3:30, and we'll continue on. And we aim to finish up everything about 5:30 this evening, when we'll have the raffle draw, and then everybody should be out of here a few minutes later. So I have a few notes made about some of the speakers, but I managed to get the wrong list of speakers, so I've got to improvise a little bit. What I was going to say about Chris, because he was going to do a short presentation about contest activity, was that he's really interesting to listen to until you get him onto the topic of ATUs. So don't raise the topic of ATUs with Chris. I won't, you won't, but let's welcome Chris to give us a talk about everything, everywhere, all at once. Chris.
Thank you, Jeff, and very loud, John. I'm loud here. Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Rob and the committee for inviting me to give the same presentation as I gave in 2014. And any of you that notice the difference, well done. I'm going to cover about 4 topics, maybe perhaps 5 topics. I've got about roughly 35 slides, and please feel free to interrupt or to ask a question or whatever. And if I'm going on and on about something, just say you're going on and on about something. You're going on and on about something. Thank you, Jeff. Later, Jeff. First of all, I found this photo of last year's convention. Oh, sorry. No, I got that wrong. That's a club meeting in the Glasgow, the West of Scotland Club, round about 1969. So I've got a slide with most of the call signs on it at the end of the presentation. Hands up, anyone that recognises anybody there in that slide. We've got Jack, GM3WOJ, right at the back. There's a very young Jack. There's my friend Roddy, GM3WOJ, who's now Victor Kilo 6 Mike Hotel. So a bit of nostalgia to start off with. Anyway, let's press on. A surprise presentation. Now, the presentations are nominally down at the middle, but I thought let's just have a presentation. Then I'm going to talk about FT8. So anyone that loves FT8 can leave after item 1. And then I'm going to give you a bit of talk about amplifiers. And then finally, what I was supposed to be talking about, a short presentation about the UKEI DXCW contest, which is now, we're very pleased to be in partnership with RSGB contesters. So I've just expanded what I was going to say. Presentation 4. Most talks given to the GMDX convention. Okay. Most interesting talks given to the GMDX convention. Most sensible questions from the floor dismissed. And who do you think this could be to this presentation? So here we are. Not for me a little quaich, a magnificent cup. If I don't, oops, magnificent dented cup. Look at that, isn't that tremendous? Now, I'll come back to this later. This is the Kenwood Cup, which we actually award for the leading station unassisted in the UKEI DX contest. Isn't it beautiful? That could sit on your mantelpiece. You know, you can't represent it, Jeff. No, John doesn't want it there. Righto, let's be a bit more serious. FT8, a touchy subject. People are either keen on FT8 or they're not so keen. It's very interesting how people react. You get branded an old dinosaur if you dare to criticize FT8. But the truth is it's had a dramatic effect on our hobby, a real sea change. And we do need to talk about it and have a think about its impact, especially as the sunspot cycle is going up and all other modes are working pretty well. Here's a very brief history of amateur radio modes. Started off with Morse code over wires for about 60 years. Then around about 1895, we started sending signals any distance. In 1901, they had the first modulation, so voice sent over a distance. And then RTTY came along, again over lines and then over radio. First SSB, way back in 1927. Then in came the digital modes. There was essentially no major extra modes in between. You could argue there was FM and stuff. Right, in 2001, so 22 years ago, WSJT was released and it was upgraded to WSJT-X. In 2017, this new mode, FT8, was announced, and in 2019, it was joined by the speedier FT4 and JS Call, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So, on UHF, digital mobile radio, DMR, came in 2010. So it's quite well established FT8, quite well established FT4, well established DMR. What is FT8? It was developed by Steve Frank K9AN and Joe Taylor K1JT. It's 8 frequencies shifting over a bandwidth of 50 Hertz, and the timing cycle is precisely 15 seconds. Under ideal conditions, an entire FT8 contact could take place in 1 minute. I've never experienced these ideal conditions. Oh, there's always something wrong. Could we just do a quick show of hands? Who has never operated FT8? Maybe 30% of the audience. Who operates FT8, SSB, and CW? Legacy modes. Okay, that's maybe 50%. And who only operates on FT8? Good man, brave. Very brave, this man. Excellent. Right. What? Well done, Terry. Moving on, here's the two inventors of FT8, or if you want to call it inventor. Heroes or villains? You decide. No phones, please. John Mann, Golf Mike 3 Alpha, being publicly shamed for having a phone. Phone off now, John. By the way, I'm running a quiz tonight. I haven't cleared it entirely with Rob, but at dinner we'll have a radio quiz. There's 13 questions. All your phones have to be face down on the table. And my daughter generated speaking a question into her smartwatch and getting the answer on her smartwatch. So all smartwatches and phones are banned during the quiz. Any table using a smartwatch will be disqualified. Right, a difficult one. Here's the positives. Worldwide communication that you could never have done before with the station that you had. You might be living in a flat, you might have not even an outdoor antenna. It works. It's very good for weak signals where there's local noise, QRP, power, low power. You can still work the world. It's an amazing mode, no doubt about that. It's very clever software, relatively easy to set up and use, ideal for amateurs with busy lives. And lastly, you don't need one of these, an 8877. You do not need an amplifier with one of these ceramic triodes in it. You can run 30 watts and work the world, particularly as the sunspot cycle is now going up. So these are all positives. Unfortunately, when FT8 was announced, they didn't emphasize that it was a low power mode. They said a low signal mode, and some people have seen that as carte blanche to run 2,000 watts or 2,500 watts, and on that, and you know, the signal's wide maybe, so it really should have been designated a low signal mode. Whether it would have made any difference, I don't think so, because the people that want to run 2,000 watts will run it anyway. Hands up here, anyone who runs 2,000 watts. One hand at the back, one honest man in the whole audience. Right, let's... Sorry. Can everyone hear me okay at the back? Okay, good. Last year, John was complaining that I was mumbling, a weak signal, mumbling, shameful. Some of the key negatives, and this first paragraph is really picked out from it's not my words, it's somebody on the internet. This lacks the personal touch that comes from human to human contact and conversation that you get on other modes. So in other words, on FT8, you don't even know their name. All you know is their grid and the dBs of signal. Very little information exchanged. Second, it uses only tiny portions of the bands. Now you tune across 15 stone dead, or 20 meters, you tune to 14074, a whole wall of signals, the spectrum scopes full of signals. So it's not using our valuable bandwidth, which might not seem a problem in these relatively early days, but it will be eventually, I'm sure. Painfully slow QSO rate. Let's watch the paint drying while we're having the QSO. It's about 5 words per minute, terribly, terribly slow. Because it's easy to automate, you have WSJT-Z, you've got MSHV running completely automatic, and one or two people have written scripts. Nick's written a script, so you don't need to be in the shack. You just set it running, and off you go and have your tea or a walk around. For example, as GM3WOJ in December, I worked about 600 stations on FT8 and FT4 without being near the radio. Just set it running, go away, come back. Not really my idea of what amateur radio is. FT4 actually is a much faster, much more useful mode in terms of a de-expedition, but it does require absolutely accurate timing, I brought along today a GPS dongle and a laptop, and I'll show you. I'll set it up through beside the book exchange, and you can have a look at the software for accurate GPS timing. Somebody should have told 3Y0 Japan that. The other negatives, once set up, it's not really much skill required, is there? You can automate it. This is an interesting one, the DXpeditions. If you run a one-man DXpedition or even a 3 or 4-man DXpedition, you don't want to be sitting there click, click, click. And so you want some sort of automated FT8 system. Paul, how will they know that there's not some poor operator click, click, click? Yeah, interesting, Paul. So have you had some expedition this is Paul F6EXV who's going to be talking later. Have you had some QSOs dinged? Dinged, Paul?
Yes. At the very beginning of the cross-day operation, I was reminded that they shouldn't be automatic. Again, how do you prove it?
Yeah, very tricky. Interesting, a whole new generation. Since it's been around since 2017, that's 6 years of FT8. So there are probably people who have never known other mode. They've never known the excitement of the Arctic flutter on a KL7 or the long path echo on a ZL. They've lived in a very narrow part of our hobby, which is sad really for them. Right, moving on. One improvement is its mode JS8, which I've actually never tried, but it's basically FT8, but you can introduce a conversational element. So you can actually exchange my name, my QTH, a bit more information rather than just that. But has anyone in here tried JS8? Who's that? Who's that? Would you tell us, please, Irish JS8? Any good, Roger? Yeah, but it does work okay, and the 15-second windows don't apply anymore, or they're not so important. Yeah, because timing FT8, especially timing FT4, when you've got no GPS signal, and very, very difficult to get that. So that's one alternative, and I think there will be other modes developed over the years. Right, this is the demo I'm going to set up through there while we're having coffee or after the coffee break. This is software that we've used on some Pacific islands called GPS to Time. It's very, very good. You can see at the moment I've got 10 satellites. This is an old screen, obviously, but 10 satellites being detected. There's my full 10-figure locator, and you can compensate plus or minus 1 second approximately for your PC clock, because most PC clocks are drift off or are not accurate enough, especially for FT4. So it's just one way of doing it. And again, I was very surprised that 3Y0J didn't appear to have this software. They seem to be drifting all over the place from Bouvet. I've got a smartphone, but I've never. I suppose there must be, John. How accurate? You would then have to link your smartphone to your laptop. You're not logging on your smartphone, are you? No, that would be very unwise. Smartphones are useful, but they're too small. I don't know, John. I don't know the answer, but it's very good software. It's freeware, and it just works most of the time. Right. So conclusion: FT8, FT4 are here to stay. Other new modes will probably come along. We're heading towards the peak of the cycle, another couple of years or 3 years, 2026. It's much better than expected. There's all the gloom and doom merchants saying it'll be a Maunder minimum and we'll all be lucky to work Czechoslovakia or France. Sorry, Peter, the Czech Republic. Sorry. They were all saying, oh, you wouldn't work anywhere, but DX conditions have just been terrific. Absolutely fantastic recently. Hang on a minute. an FT8 user is about to make a comment. Tom? Tom, is this a question, or are you trying to get sympathy from the audience, Tom? Because hands up, who's sympathetic with Tom? No, it's a, yeah. I was very interested about, Peter's going to tell more about the Tango November 8 use of FT8, Tango November 8 kilo, but they had a sensible plan. You're dead right, Tom. It's the law of the jungle. In a contest, you don't have the right to any frequency. Yes, but why is RTTY superior to FT8 in your mind, Tom? Could someone, is there any, Jeff, is there any facility for ejecting awkward audience? Right, let's move on. So FT8 people, please give it a try. Please give the other modes a try. SSBCW, there's lots of stuff to be worked, and it's very interesting stuff. Right, moving on. Just a couple of, we're going to hear later from Tango November 8 Kilo, Fox Tango 8 Whiskey Whiskey. Excellent D-Expedition. Excellent D-Expedition. That's just so that when Peter starts talking, you've got them in your mind. Excellent D-Expedition. 3 Yankee 0 Japan now. I could go on for half an hour alone about this. They didn't seem to have a plan B, and unfortunately, they didn't seem to have a very good plan A either. So we've all got our own opinions about how well it was planned. They were unlucky with the heavy swell, but if you're going to the South Atlantic, you expect these sort of things, at least you should. Give them their due, they did land on the island, they did make QSOs, and they were brave. But I think they could have planned it better. That's all I really want to say. Right, next little chunk. I've got 4 of. How's my time, Jeff? Has anybody said the board? No. Who said that? Right. I'm lucky enough to have 2 amplifiers. Well, I've got more than that, but I love. I love amplifiers. It's very important to have amplifier. Hands up, who's got an amplifier at home? Goodness me, 95%. Well done. Okay. I just wanted to make some very brief comments. I'll probably finish early, it doesn't matter. Give you time to think of some questions. This is the inside of the ACOM 2100. About 5 years ago, maybe slightly more, ACOM announced an amplifier called the ACOM 1500. And it's basically exactly the same as the 2100, except you've got a bigger transformer, so they're putting more volts onto the 4CX 1000A tetrode. It looks very similar like that. I've got some for a display after coffee or whatever. So very beautifully made. There's a video about the ACOM factory, which is well worth watching. Their production, all their NC machines, the silk screening of the panels, real professionally made amplifier. Very helpful guys as well. I think it's Val LZ1VB. You send him an email, he comes straight back with a circuit diagram, how to fault find, and of course they've got all the fault codes for anything that could wrong. So ACOM, beautifully constructed, works really well, should last a long time if you don't cane it. Right, SPE. Now, I've got a 1.5 KFA Series 2. I opened the lid and I was incredibly surprised to see 51 sealed relays. And I thought, 51 sealed relays. What's going on? It's obviously the ATU over here on the right. If I go back to the previous slide, it's pretty obvious where the 4CX1000 is. Where's the LDMOS device? Where's the NXP LDMOS device in that picture? Well, you look at it and you think, hang on a minute, where is it? Where's the actual thing that's delivering the juice? And here it is, underneath that toroid. It's on a big heat sink and it's soldered down, but it's tiny. It's only the size of a little chip, a TTL chip, probably a 16 pin. Very nicely made. The big difference is that SPE are like a secret society. You try and get that repaired, try and ask for a circuit diagram or alignment procedures or anything, they just don't want to know. Secret society, which is not a good policy. AECOM are so different. This is my rough calculation, taking the size of the 4CX1000, the tube, and the size of the MRFX1K80N, and I did a wee calculation. The density, the power density, watts per meter cubed, is about 146 times greater than in the old-fashioned valve. So don't diss valve amplifiers. They're excellent. I'm guessing there might be a supply chain problem because of the unfortunate war in Ukraine, but I think the Ukrainian guys have got garages full of tubes, and all they do is put the price up. Just, that's it. So, interesting. Pardon? Well, yes, not in the tubes, I don't think. Righto. This was what I was originally asked to talk about, so if I could ask you if you could please try and take part in this. We've been running these contests since 2014. They're very simple. Your district code is the multiplier. And these are ideal because the focus of the contest is on the UK and on EI. So anyone in this room that even sneezes into the radio will be a multiplier and will be what people want to work you. This year, for the first time, we're very pleased to join up with the RSGB HF contesters. In partnership, we've got the Irish Radio Transmitter Society and the GMDX group. So if you do well in these contests, this is what you get for coming first. You get your picture taken with this, and then I put it away again, right? And I'm quite sure that the GMDX members get a little quaich, just like this, to say that they've won the GM section, the MM or 2M or whatever it is. So we're very pleased to be joined by the RSGB, and we have the other two that have been with us for a few years. When is this? It's in about 2 weeks' time. The last full weekend of this month. And how's my time, Jeff? Okay. You sure? Yes. People are getting bored. That bloke yawned. I see a couple. Last year, people up the back, their eyes were. Okay, right. So it's 80 to 10 meters. It's a very simple format. There's a SSB version later in the year, and I hope you will make an effort to join in. We need your help on this. There are 155 DX multipliers in the UK and Echo India. We've sorted them out a bit because Belfast used to be, Belfast BT postcode would cover the whole of Northern Ireland, the whole 6 counties. So we've split it back up to 6 separate ones. I was quite surprised. I didn't actually realise there are only 15 postcodes in the whole of Scotland. So you must be in one of these if you're Scottish. I didn't realise it was so few. I thought there would be many more, but there's only 15. So, for example, if you're here in Stirling, that KA. What town is KA? Yeah, I think. Well, let me go back to the previous list. I told you no awkward questions, please. I may have to consult. Let me see, Kilo Alpha, Kilmarnock. My mistake, I missed it off the list. I was transcribing that. No, Nick, you're from England, so you're not allowed to speak. So, yes, my mistake. I missed off Kilo Alpha. I apologise unreservedly to anyone from the Kilmarnock. What? Glasgow, yeah, I could hardly miss it, Terry. No, it was I made a mistake transcribing. There's 16, apologies. So that lot. So here in Sterling, you would send 599 5NN 001 Fox Kilo, the 2-letter district code, which is not necessarily the same as the first 2 letters of your postcode. Okay? Right. Remember at the start, by the way, you can actually ask a question here, but it'd be better if you emailed me it. It's easier to ignore. So, would anybody got any questions about... John?
Can I just say, none of this will get onto the recording unless a microphone is passed around, so if we could do that, please, as questions are being asked, we'd appreciate it.
Hi, Chris.
John?
Logging software recommended N1MM? Or
Yes, N1MM or
do you need to
DX log.
download a special little add-on for it?
I think it's in the list of main contests as the UKEI DX contest. Yeah, and DX log has it as well. Windtest, which I love. Windtest is by far the best logging software. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Windtest doesn't get developed, so it doesn't got it. So N1MM plus SD does it if you like older stuff. But please try and put on an entry from Scotland. I've 2 more items. Right at the start, I showed you this photo from the west of Scotland. We think in 1969. What a handsome-looking bunch compared to you lot. Look at the sports jackets, the ties. Where standards have dropped. It's not surprising. So it looks very. I don't know if you can read the thing. There's old Charlie, GM3WOJ, who used to run a daily net almost from down in Straven. GM6MD, Alec, you know that call. Yeah, Dave McCady. There's Tony, GM3WYL, who I think was here last year. Jack, do you recognise any of the others? We have a few names that we don't know who they are. We thought it was, it's not. It's a GM3 CSM with another picture with GM3EDZ in it, but I don't actually know these. Anyway, just before I started my talking, Nick, G4FAL, asked me to put in a plug for GR2HQ. Every July we run the headquarters station for the UK. And you don't need much of a station to take part. You could travel to a friend's station. It's a 24-hour contest, SSB and CW, and there's a really good team spirit. You feel as if you're part of a failing team, it's very worthwhile. It's very enjoyable. Anything else you want to add, Nick? Nick's going to. Here's your microphone, Nick.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for all your rude comments, Chris. I was going to ask whether KW was used for Orkney for any particular reason as the 2-letter acronym, but no. GR2HQ. Okay. Every year we try and get as many people together and as many stations together to take part. And what I will do shortly is send out a questionnaire. So if there's any possibility that you might either be able to operate as part of the contest from your home location, maybe a single band entry, or if you may be able to travel to someone else's location and operate from there, then please let me have your email address if I haven't already got it, and I'll let you have a copy of the questionnaire where you can come back and say, no, I can't take part, or you can let me know what possible participation you could have. So I've got a book here. Just give me a nudge and write your email address down, and I'll send the questionnaire. There's no obligation to take part just by giving me the email address. Thank you very much.